The term worst year ever gets tossed around a lot these days, especially on the internet. For many, the year 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic come to mind immediately. It was a year filled with lockdowns, economic hardships, and a global health crisis that affected billions. But if you think 2020 was tough, historians and scientists have identified another year in history that might just take the title for the worst year ever, 536 AD. While many years have had their fair share of disasters, no single year has had such a devastating impact on the world as 536 AD. Today, we're going to delve into why 536 AD is often considered the worst year to be alive. The year was 536 AD, and things were already tough for a lot of people around the world. But as if the wars, famines, and diseases weren't enough, something truly bizarre started happening. A Byzantine historian named Procopius, who was serving as a military advisor to the famous general Belisarius, was in Sicily when he noticed something was off. He wrote that the sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon during an eclipse, for nearly a whole year. In other words, it was dark, really dark. And it wasn't just Procopius who noticed. Michael the Syrian, a scribe, later wrote that the sun became dark, and its dim light lasted for 18 months. He described how the sun would shine for only a few hours each day, and even then, it was like a weak shadow. People were terrified, thinking the sun might never recover its full light. Crops didn't ripen, and the wine tasted like sour grapes. Definitely not a good sign for the future. So what was going on? Modern researchers have pieced together evidence pointing to a massive volcanic eruption as the culprit behind this year-long darkness. The eruption spewed so much ash into the atmosphere that it blocked out the sun, creating what's known as a volcanic winter. This wasn't just a local problem, it affected the entire northern hemisphere, leading to global cooling that lasted for years. And when you block out the sun, bad things happen. Crops around the world started to fail. In Ireland, for example, they experienced something called bread failure, which, as you can guess, meant a severe shortage of food. With the sun hidden behind a thick veil of ash, temperatures dropped significantly by about 1.6 to 2.5 degrees Celsius. That might not sound like much, but it was enough to throw the world's agricultural systems into chaos. As if the darkness and famine weren't enough, the year 536 AD had one more trick up its sleeve: plague. With people weakened by hunger and living in close quarters, disease spread like wildfire. The most notorious of these was the Justinian plague, named after the Byzantine emperor Justinian. This was one of the first recorded outbreaks of the bubonic plague, and it was a nightmare. Symptoms started with a sore on the palm of the hand, and soon the legs would swell, buboes would burst, and pus would start oozing out. It's as gross as it sounds. The plague tore through Constantinople and other parts of the empire, killing an estimated 50 million people. The bodies piled up so fast that they couldn't even be properly buried. People just threw them into the sea, only for them to wash back ashore. This was a time when winging it was about the only burial plan they had. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world in China, the climate was going haywire. Around the same time, they experienced bizarre weather patterns that included dust raining down from the sky. The Nan Shi, a historical chronicle, reported a yellow ash-like substance falling from the heavens, which they called hui. But the strange weather didn't stop there. They also had frost in the middle of summer and snow in August. That's right, snow in August. As you can imagine, crops were not happy about this. The unusual cold snap destroyed summer crops and led to a famine that lasted 2 years, wiping out up to 80% of the population in some areas. Back in Europe, the icy fingers of the volcanic winter stretched far and wide. Evidence found deep within the ice sheets of Greenland and Iceland shows that a major volcanic event occurred around 536 AD, kicking off what we now call the Late Antique Little Ice Age. This wasn't just a one-off event. The world would experience multiple volcanic eruptions in the following years, further darkening the skies and cooling the planet. The fallout from these eruptions led to a decade of frigid temperatures, failed crops, and a malnourished population that was even more vulnerable to the waves of disease sweeping across the globe. Volcanic eruptions might not care about the human cost, but for everyone else, it was a very bad year. Actually, a bad decade. By the 6th century, the Roman Empire had shifted its focus eastward to Constantinople under the rule of Emperor Justinian. Justinian was determined to restore the glory of the old Roman Empire, but fate had other plans. Despite some military successes, Justinian's reign was plagued, literally, by disaster. The combination of wars, the volcanic winter, famine, and disease took a heavy toll on the Byzantine Empire. Between 35% and 55% of the population was wiped out by the Justinian plague alone. The empire never fully recovered from this blow. Historians believe the plague may have been spread by rats carrying fleas infected with the plague, hitching rides on the empire's military supply trains. It's safe to say Justinian's dream of a Roman resurgence didn't quite pan out, but it wasn't just the Romans or the Chinese who suffered. The Moche civilization in Peru, known for their advanced irrigation systems and agricultural prowess, also felt the effects of the 536 disaster. An unusually strong El Niño weather pattern around this time caused the waters off the coast of Peru to warm, devastating the fish population and leading to severe flooding. These floods destroyed the Moche's irrigation systems, crippling their ability to grow food and pushing the civilization into decline. The weather had literally washed away their means of survival. Fast forward to today, where a group of scholars set out to determine once and for all whether 536 AD truly was the worst year to be alive. Led by Harvard historian Michael McCormick, these researchers analyzed ice cores from glaciers in Switzerland and volcanic fragments from Iceland. Their findings confirmed that a massive volcanic eruption in 536 AD had indeed blanketed much of the northern hemisphere in ash, triggering a chain of catastrophic events. The resulting darkness, crop failures, and diseases cemented 536 AD's reputation as the worst year in history. Sure, modern times have their own challenges, but when it comes to global misery, 536 AD might just be unbeatable. And just when you think it can't get any worse, there's a small silver lining. By studying ice cores, researchers noticed that by the end of the 6th century, lead started showing up again in the ice. This indicated that people were producing silver coins once more, a sign that economies were starting to recover. So, while 536 AD might have been the worst year ever, humanity did eventually bounce back. It's a reminder that no matter how bad things get, there's always hope for a better future. So what do you think? Would you take a time machine back to 536 AD to see just how bad it really was? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're here, check out some of the other videos on our Medieval Mind channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.